This is the Chainlink 1 year overview reading for the year of 2025. It's currently April 2nd, 2024, 2:54 p.m. Eastern Time. Link at the time of this reading is currently $17.91. That's USD. And the shuffle video that we're playing for you in the lower left corner was created on February 18th, 2024 at 9:29 p.m. Eastern Time. That's that video in the corner. So the overall theme and behavior for Link in 2025, we have the success card as the overall theme. So we successfully turned a resistance on probably a multi-year scale, at least a 1 year scale, but probably a multi-year scale. We turned that resistance into new support. It's crossed with multiple failed attempts to break through key resistance. This early in the reading, hard to say if that's the same resistance we're talking about, but probably based on that being the crossing. Usually the crossing card is something that like an event that helps or hinders the overall trend. Behavior around the highest high for the year, we have a period of sideways rotation and a sharp drop within that period of sideways rotation. Usually with that sharp drop, we'll revisit a support level that was recently a past opportunity. Behavior around the lowest low for the year, we have a notable decline that increases with momentum moving forward into the low. Now, I'm going to get into the week-by-week chart behavior as well as timing the highest highs and the lowest lows. The whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that by following the rule of karma for the channel. You go to the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, and 5% of the profits from every profitable trade utilizing this information should be donated forward to one of these charities, or pick a charity of your choosing as long as you're paying 5% forward, and then 5% should be sent back to the channel through one of these links. If you're international, you can use Wise or you can use YouTube tips, and that leaves you at 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe considers you an angel investor. It's going to send it back to you tenfold for following through. Blessings to all my angel investors. Let's get back into it. In January, we have an attempt to establish support along a key price level it's important on like a 1 year chart scale, probably a multi-year if we go back to 2024 here at the end of the year. So it looks like we end 2024 on a high. We're probably attempting to establish that new high as support right here. There's a failed attempt to break through key resistance on a 1 year chart scale at the January high, and that's followed by a decline through key support. January low will form when off of an overbought peak or crest, we have a decline through multiple support levels into the low, and it looks like there's a pop and drop. So we probably see the January low and the February low, and maybe that they're combined together. But I think that there's a low in the early part of January, and then we either see that low twice in January or we revisit it again in February. So if we revisit the low in January, if we revisit the low of January in January, like with a pop and a drop, then I would say that we visited the February low. It looks like they might be combined. And then this big move to the upside in the later part of January takes us into a resistance level on a multi-year scale that we successfully turned into support, at least momentarily. There's a sideways fluctuating decline early in the month of February, taking us into a prominent trough. And that sideways fluctuating decline does precede a notable rally. Trade opportunity right on the cusp of January and February, which I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. And then from the February high, which looks to be in probably the second week of February, there's a notable decline to revisit a support level that we recently met once before on like a 1 year chart scale minimum. So my sense is we probably do like a pop and then a drop. And as we drop, we go back into February and we kind of like revisit or close to the lows of January. And I would be very mindful because in the later part of February, we have a notable rally into a new high. And this is probably a new high on a multi-year scale. The reason why I say that is because we've got the abundance card, which often is a new high or a new all-time high or something like that. And it's right smack next to a cross-reading congruency for the high card of the multi-year reading. I'll talk about that in a lot more detail in the paid version if you don't know what I mean by cross-reading congruency. But there's also indications that we have a significant high here in March. So I think right on the cusp of February, March, probably early March is where we have like a new all-time high on a multi-year scale, like a new all-time high, I should say, not on any scale. It's a new all-time high. There should be multiple failed attempts to break the key resistance in early March and a notable move higher. Matter of fact, in February and March, it's probably combined. There's like this prominent move higher through key resistance on a 1 year chart scale. We stay above it briefly and then we break back down with a full retracement. There's a trough in mid-March, followed by another peak in like the third week of March. Now that peak will likely not be as high as the peak from the first week of March or the cusp of February, March, I should say. But that peak in the third week it'll be a brief peak that's easily missed, followed by a decline through multiple support levels into the end of March. A lot of price swinging going on right around the cusp of March, April. I'm advised not to chase a rally higher there. And there's significant price swings in the earlier part of April, off of the April high. Matter of fact, before we go any further, let's take a look and see how we're doing for 2024 and how we did in 2023 thus far. All right, so 2023, this reading was conducted. 2023 reading was created December 20th, 2022 at 7:28 p.m. So keep in mind that this reading was done so long ago. And the number of 1 year readings that I've done since this reading, this was probably one of the earlier 1 year readings that we did, but the number that I've done since then is there's so many. It's just, we've evolved since that time substantially. We've gotten better, in other words, but let's take a look and see how we did. All right, so the prominent peak in January, trough on the cusp of January, February, another prominent peak in February. Later part of February is a prominent move higher, full retracement into March. Another important trough there for the February low, and then the prominent trough in a March low, prominent high. It's like we were a little off on that prominent high. That prominent high ended up being in April. And then we get into, I have a highest high thus far here at the end of April. I have it for May, so a little bit off there. And then that's followed shortly thereafter by lowest low, which I have in the beginning of June. We have it on the cusp of May, June, so that's pretty solid. Nailed those. We have another lowest low, or pretty close. Doesn't quite come in there, but close, July, and then another lowest low, pretty close, but not quite, after a sharp decline into August, September. So those are pretty solid. There's also another highest high in here between August and September. Looks like I was a little off. It's more so at the very end of July, but even so, we still kind of captured that there was a high there. And then it looks like we went a little haywire at the end of the year. Probably should have seen these as highs. Overall, pretty solid, except we missed out on this that's an ace of discs in October. That's an ace of discs move off of a support to a big move higher, right? So that was pretty solid. There's also the breakout there in early November. That was pretty solid. prominent trough in late November, and we had a prominent peak in November as well. We just didn't capture it at the highest high for whatever reason, missed it. Like I said, we've gotten a lot better since that time, but this was still overall pretty solid reading. If you opened up in May, might have been a little late. If you opened up in May, on the cusp of May, June, I should say, if you opened up a long position as instructed by the paid version, somewhere around here, even if you were early and you got in here at the end of May instead of in here, what probably you would have done following our guidance would have been to open up a partial or complete the long position here if we see that we went lower. But you would have held that until September high, so that would have made money. You would have got it a little early, or if you had more risk tolerance and you went for this ace of disc cash out opportunity, then that would have taken you, and then there's another cash out there. Yeah, you would have probably exited out here at this double X. Either at the X down here at the double X. Either way, that would have been a really solid gain. And that was what you would have been doing following the guidance of the paid version. The 2024 reading was created on October 5th, 2023 at 10:27 p.m. And so we have a highest high here on the cusp of February, March, and then a higher highest high in the early part of March. You can see we have a highest high on the cusp, and then a higher high here in early March. We have an important trough on the cusp of January, February, probably more so in January based on the full card. Now I have the circle, and you can see we actually had two of them, and they were both here in January, so that was pretty solid. Off of the March low, the rally out of the March low, I should say, offers opportunity to open up a short position or close a long position, and it looks like thus far that's pretty solid. You know, we'll probably come back down to these price levels based on that Ace of Wands being there right here around the cusp. But overall, this has been a pretty solid reading. We nailed the highest high thus far, and then the higher highest high thus far. We nailed a prominent trough there early in the month, or early in the year. And then we had this sharp drop off right out of like the cusp of February, March, and you can see there's a sharp drop there. This was a really solid reading, guys. And so what you would have likely done is opened up a long position here in Link based on the low being the full card in January. You probably would have added to the long position here, and then you would be looking to close out of the long position. You might have done so here based on the guidance, or you waited until March, which is more so what guidance would have said, and you would have closed out here in the second week of March. It's a pretty solid gain, guys. That's like $13, let's say, to $21.70. So if you're interested in the paid version, it's a really great way to support the channel. You get the paid version here under our service is SO Meta Post. Scroll down to 1 year report, click here to order. Either ordering one that's already been completed, and these generally have like a 48-hour turnaround. You can see there's a huge list. You get $100 off basically. Or if we haven't covered your crypto or ticker, you can order a custom one here. Specify the year, the crypto or ticker symbol. If it's crypto, please specify and add to cart. Really great way to support the channel, guys. Much appreciation to everybody that goes and does that. And we're running roughly a 96 to 90. We're in the mid to high 90s as far as accuracy, guys, on these. And you saw what we did. So you can't find that information anywhere but here, aside from like after it's already happened. But one other place that you can get the paid version of this reading. This is the top tier subscription on our channel right now. Total access gets you access to the paid version of all of the 1 year paid versions that we've completed and that will be completed, during the month that you have it. So basically, it gets you access to all the paid version of all of these crypto and ticker symbols, plus any more customs that come out throughout the year and any that I feature for some reason of importance. But also, with the total access, get the paid version of all of the monthlies that come out, customs and the repeaters. So really great value, guys. Totally underpriced and undervalued, if you ask me. Much appreciation again to everybody that does that. That's our top subscription, and those people really the core foundation of support for the channel. A huge part of what goes on here. We couldn't do it without you guys. So much love and appreciation goes out to you. Let's get back into it. All right, so these price swings in early April, a notable decline on a 1 year chart scale off of the April high, and that should be after successfully turning resistance into support on a 1 year chart scale. The April low forms when we have a rally along a diagonal trend line that ends with a fast move higher and then a breakdown through that diagonal trend line. And the later part of April, we have a prominent move higher through a key resistance level on a 1 year chart scale. We stay above it briefly and then we break back down through it with a full retracement there through that same price level shortly thereafter. That decline, it actually looks like we rallied through that key resistance into a peak on the cusp of April, May, and then decline with the full retracement back down into early May. But from that decline in early May, we have a big move out of it from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range. And we have at the May high a resistance level that's been highlighted many times before we failed, or excuse me, at the May high we have a resistance level that's highlighted that we failed to break through many times before. And there's bearish price swings and or a sharp drop in the later part of May. Early third week of May is likely where that sharp drop is. We go from like rallying into key resistance somewhere around the second week of May into a decline with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down, taking us into a May low in the third week of May. And then there's those bearish price swings. And then in the early part of June, we have a breakout on a 1 year chart scale. Pretty big move taking us to key resistance again on a 1 year chart scale. We should sort of flatten out around the June high. The June high and the June low are within close time proximity to each other. Well, I should say the June high is within close time proximity to a prominent trough on a 1 year chart scale. The June low is within close time proximity to a highest high for the year, at least thus far. And the June low forms when we have sideways rotational on key support. We rise to meet the nearest resistance and then fall back down and continue rotating sideways. The later part of June, we have this big move to the upside, reaching for distant resistance. In other words, passing the nearest key resistance to meet at least the next resistance. So it looks like the rally in the end of June to reach for distant resistance probably continues into July. There's an important support level on a multi-year scale highlighted in early July. Rally and the July high. The rally into the July high offers an opportunity to trade. I'll talk about it in more detail in the paid version. And it looks like we probably have a really big decline here from like a highest high thus far here in July, and maybe like the second or third week of July, to a lowest low for the year at the July low, and then we do sideways rotation along the July low. There's a big move out of that sideways rotation, and then more sideways rotation at a higher price level. Looks like we get into some price swings here around the end of July and into early August. Very likely have a highest high again, so we probably revisit that highest high from July again in early August after seeing a lowest low. That's like there's like a really big swing there. Yeah, and the August high is within close time proximity to a prominent trough. The August low forms when there's the halting of a bullish trend marked by a sharp decline through key support, and then we have sideways rotation along key support on a 1-year chart scale in the later part of August. Another prominent peak on a 1-year chart scale in early September, bumping along a key resistance level, or bumping into a key resistance level. I should say a key range is highlighted in early September, and there's a prominent peak there. We also successfully turned resistance into new support, at least temporarily, near the September high, which seems to be towards the later part of September. We have 3 crisscrosses through the same price level near the September low, first to the upside, then to the downside, and then back to the upside, usually confirming a bullish trend with that third cross, which takes us to the upside. And it does look like in the third week, when we cross through an important price level on a 1-year chart scale there on the third week of September, there is a big move. It's like out of a decline, big move through that price level, and a big move to the upside, taking us to a high at the end of September, which is also very likely a highest high. It's either the same high or a higher one, but I think it's probably the same high as we had in July. In early October, we have the overall behavior in early October is bumping along resistance sideways. The Valor card is quite bullish in a lot of cases, so we might break through resistance and then bump along some more, and then maybe break through again and bump along. But the majority of what you should see as far as behavior is bumping along a key resistance. And then the October high also marks a significant trade opportunity when we look back in 2026. When we look back at 2025, the October high will really stand out. I actually think that it's probably that full card is probably there on the cusp of September, October, at that high in the end of September, probably early October. The October low forms when we have a decline to and through support to meet another support on a multi-day scale. We bump along that multi-day scale and then break down through multiple supports into a lowest low again. This is either the same low as the one that we had in July, August, probably July, or it's a lower one and here towards the third week of October. Okay, so we have a lowest low in like the third week. This is either the same low or a lower low. Same low as July, or it's a lower low here in like the third or fourth week of October. It looks like out of the lowest low, there's like a little bit of a rally in the later part of October, but it's a failed attempt to break the key resistance followed by a decline to key support. And that failed attempt to key resistance will be really kind of disappointing because people, based on technical analysis, are probably going to be expecting us to break through and go higher. And then in the early part of November, we have a period of volatility and a sharp drop that stands out in that period of volatility. I'm advised to be very cautious near the November low, multiple false bottoms or some sort of tricky chart behavior. Not necessarily intentional, but still very, very likely to make us do something impulsive and impulsively wrong. And then in the later part of November, we have a sideways fluctuating rally that does precede a decline. Looks like the decline probably takes place in December, though. The November high forms, it's a prominent peak on a 1-year chart scale, and it forms when we have a prominent move higher, followed by a full retracement back down, making kind of like a triangular shape. So the sideways fluctuating rally in late November continues into early December, where we decline pretty sharply from a crest down to and through a key support level. We do a U-shaped reversal below that support level, come back and reuse it as support. And then the December high forms when out of a decline or in the face of seemingly overwhelming headwinds, there's still a big move higher, even though we're expecting to go lower. December low forms when from a near overbought crest or peak, we sell off through multiple support levels. And the later part of December, we have 3 pokes through the same price level, followed by a sharp drop off of that same poke, same price level or same trend line. Usually it's horizontal, but on the scale of a 1 year, it could be like at an angle, usually to the downside in cases where it's on an angle, but it's 3 pokes through that trend line followed by a sharp drop. And then in 2026, we have either the same low that we've seen here in 2025 or lower low, but out of that low, we have a big move pushing the upper end of at least pushing the upper end of a range higher, probably a multi-year range higher. And that's the link for 2025, my friends. Please don't forget to subscribe, or please remember to subscribe. Really helps out the channel. Most importantly, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You know where to go, you know what to do. Blessings to all my angel investors. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned if you got the paid version. We're going to get into the best trades in just a moment here.